Hey, good morning, everybody. Thought we'd come in and do a ground zero. Haven't talked about H1Z1 lately, mostly because the early access ain't out yet. So speculation is fun to a degree, but it'd be nice to actually have something to talk about. So the Reddit community, though, never fails to amaze me with all the wonderful ideas people have for the game. So I thought I would hop back into the Reddit and see what kind of things people have thought of. Now, there's actually quite a bit, and this H1Z1 is one of the most active Reddits I've read. Not that I follow a whole lot of Reddits, but I have to admit, the folks on here are pretty darn clever when I compare it to some other Reddits I've read. So, I just want to point out some things I thought were really, really cool. Now, one of the items that came up here was talking about personal maps that the players can edit. Now, that one struck me as a really cool idea because I think it works. Now, I think one of the games I played a while ago was Final Fantasy 11. When I say a while ago, I meant that quite a few years ago. When it first came out, it had a map that it wasn't quite as interactive as like being able to draw lines and stuff, but the fact that you could click on a point and label it was very awesome. Because up to that point in a lot of games, we actually drew our maps by hand, like got a piece of paper and kind of drew in a map and then could label stuff on our own. So we never actually had an in-game map that we played with. We actually had paper that we kept at our desk or wherever it was we were gaming at. And I remember as a kid when they had the gold box D&D games on the old IBM computers where you would advance one square at a time, why grid paper was your best friend, and it gave that feel of playing it like the tabletop where everything was grid spaced off, and then you just converted that to the computer. So if you moved to forward 2 spaces, then that was 2 lines on your grid paper. So I'm used to making my own maps. So in-game maps are cool, but then being able to edit, make changes to those in-game maps are, I think, a really cool idea. And the only thing I can think of where people might say that would be a problem here is the fact that you have to then track and store that information for lots and lots of players, and everybody would be, marking their own information on these maps. How hard would it be for the system to track all of that, database wise, and what a drain on the game that would be. And then if you die, you lose your map and you lose all your notes. So I think it's a great idea, but there's potentially, things that technically wise, I don't know what would be involved in having it there. But I think it's great because I was actually thinking about doing just the old-fashioned method myself, drawing my own map. And I think that would be great for H1Z1 in particular because it's a static map that I'm aware of. They're not doing procedurally generated or any of those cool buzzwords. They're just having a map. Now I know a lot of players have great memories, and once they've visited a few places, they kind of know how to get from spot to spot. But as the world grows, it might be hard just to kind of memorize all that. You can. I know people do. But maps, there's just something about having a map that makes you feel like you're part of the world. Now, one game that has a map in it is the Infestation Survivor Stories, or the old War Z game. It's got a map, and it shows where you're on the map, where you're moving to. It's like your GPS on a very colorful map, and it takes all surprises out. And the world map you play on is a certain size, and you know exactly where the cities are, and you know where to go to get your good loot because you know how to get there, and everybody does. So if you want to go fight, people know certain places to go to get into a PvP fight. And DayZ, okay, now they don't have an in-game map. Well, DayZ standalone I have not played, but on some of the mods I get to play, like Breaking Point and stuff, you don't have a map until you find a map in the world, and then that goes into a map slot, and then you open the map, but it doesn't necessarily show where you are in the map until you find like a GPS. But even though I might not exactly know where I'm on the map, but I can orienteer myself, and as soon as I find some locations It's usually like a city name or something, I can find myself on the map, and then I have a pretty good idea where I am in the world. So in-game maps, I think, are great. Now, in like Breaking Point, I'm not sure. I don't think it was Breaking Point. It might have. I've played so many DayZ mods, whether it's DayZ, the Arma 2 or Arma 3 engine. There's just not too many DayZ mods on Arma 3, but there's like Breaking Point and then Dead Nation. But between all of those different mods, one of them I saw people were putting notes on the map. Now, the reason why that's either cool, bad, I think great for the story. Let's say you could make maps and then drop them, or you find paper, craft it into a map and leave notes. I think that would be so freaking cool, because then you could lead people to Terminus, and then you and your PvP group of bandits would just kill people who get there. How cool would that be? Just leave little snippets of clues. Maybe you have like a big scavenger hunt. You'd have everybody show up at a tree post, and then there's maybe some maps there people can pick up, and then they move on to the next spot. Or you have, just a set of clues, and first come, first serve. You come, you get the clue, then you move on to the next thing. People could now make their own in-game quest. That's one thing I've heard about this game, or the genre. People, they want things to do. Well, make a thing. If you could make in-game maps, and then you could write clues on those maps, and you leave them around the world, then you could send people on quests. Yeah, it's a one-time only shot, unless that person reads the clue and then leaves it behind. But I tell you what, I've done similar things like that, whether it was in the military. You're going to get some jerk who takes the point. There's somebody who's going to take the clue and then make it so the rest of us can't progress on because the clue we need is missing. Happens all the time. But that would be, I just think maps in here have such great potential if you make them so we can write on them and drop them. Don't make it something that's tied to your character. Make it an actual physical item, and when you die, that map stays behind in your backpack, and if someone loots you, bingo, they know how to get to your special pirate treasure because the X is right there on the map. I think it's great. It gives you incentive to rush back to your corpse because you're like, oh my goodness, he's got the plans for the Death Star. I got to get that back so they don't blow up the base, I think that's cool. So, personal maps that you can edit, awesome idea. Let's see here. Another thing I went through. I clicked on these. Clagnog and Smedley Oats. Sure enough, Clagnog. Yeah. That's great. This milk contains essence of zombies. Yeah, Clegg and Smedley. It's so interesting. I'm not sure how it turned out this way. Smedley, I know I could see people putting him on oats and things, and just read these, run for your life. It's good stuff. But Weisenhunt, I haven't seen a whole lot of people putting Jimmy Weisenhunt's name on things, and he's like supposedly like the face of the game kind of a thing. But this Clegg guy is everywhere. I see him on more stuff. But it's good though. I like it. And then the Smedley Oats. I did enjoy this one too. That's great. Ingredients: corn, flour, poison, zombie brains. Yeah. Good stuff. Help keep you running. Comes with a free toy inside. You got Fred. Nice stuff. I just had to click. Let's see here. Is permadeath working for games like this? Alright, I had to read that one. I took the bite and I read it. Is permadeath working for games like this? Let's see if it loads up here. But when I read it, the gist was, the idea of permadeath is interesting in a survival game. That's the whole thing, is how long you're gonna live. The thing is, though, you have no story up until the point where your character is in the game. And when you play a game like this, it's not a survival game. okay, it's a survival game, but the thing is, it's a lobby shooter, is what it boils down to. And even if you put it in this MMO thing, there's nothing that keeps you attached to the character. Because you make your character, boom, you're in the world, you play for a bit, you die. Now, what makes you attached to the character is how long you keep that character alive. But if you're like me, and you go in and it's a PvP-based lobby shooter survival game, you know, I might not last very long. And so there's no attachment to the character, no attachment to the world. When I play the Dead Linger multiplayer is pretty much empty, and it's terrible. There's no incentive really to play on the multiplayer. But you play single player. And now, yeah, it's just me, okay, so I don't have the threat of humans hunting me, but I actually have some attachment to my character because he's lived for a while. He's got some, you know, little base of operations he's set up. He's got food, ammo. I mean, he's pretty safe. He is surviving the apocalypse. And people might think, well, that's boring. Well, it's a survival game, and my guy is surviving, so I think I'm doing quite well. And I have attachment to the character because I've played him now for quite a while in terms of a survival game. Great. Project Zomboid. You play that single player. There's a great sense of accomplishment there. You have attachment to your character. You get to develop some statistics. You get to barricade, and they have barricading that works. You know, it has a lot of things that when you play it and you develop your person and you keep your person alive, you start to build some attachment there because you're not in a lobby-based shooter and people aren't out trying to kill you. Now, you take something like DayZ. When I play those games, there's no attachment at all. You just pop in, you run around, you grab some food, you pick up some supplies, and bam, somebody shoots you, or you shoot somebody. And then you make that person feel like, well, what's the point? There's no attachment, there's no development, there's no carryover. There's nothing that makes you feel like you have any reason to keep playing other than you want to go and shoot people. Now, the one thing that for all the guff that people give Infestation Survivor Stories, I have to be honest, I play that the least amount of all my games. But the one thing it does do is it has some stats that carry over. Like, you can actually get some character progression going. Not much, but they have some different categories that you can build your survivor up. Some survival category, like a combat. You know, there's several things. I won't go into details because I'd have to pull the game up, and I don't feel like doing that to really show you. But when you die, those experience points carry over to the next time that you pop back into the game world. So you actually have a chance to put some development into your character. Now, when I saw Nether gameplay, Nether has experience. You have a chance to build your character up until you die. So yeah, permadeath has some benefits. Like, I could see permadeath. You lose all your gear that you're carrying. Maybe in your container. There's no spawn point or anything like that. You just pop back into the world randomly. But achievements you've unlocked or perks, like let's say they totally do away, like they said they're going to do away with experience points, but let's say you have perks, a perk system. Every 1,000 zombies you kill, you get something. Every 10,000 logs you harvest, you get an extra log when you harvest. You know, whatever it is you want to take. You know, every 1,000 players you apply a bandage to, the next time you apply a bandage, it does an additional point of health. You know, a perk system, right? Then that carries over from person to person, and then if you want, your person can either come back as a new randomly generated character, or you know, you could keep the same body, if you will, but at some point it would be nice to feel some connection to your character. And even throughout all the chaos of dying all the time, you know, there's got to be a reason to keep popping back into the game. If you, the permadeath shock has been taken away by DayZ for me. Like, I don't even care if a game says it's got permadeath and that's its big selling point. Whatever. Just pop back in and start over. And it's to a point now where it has no meaning. To the point where it's like, that's not even a cool gimmick anymore. You know, sure, you want to survive and keep your character long, But if you have a game where there's no progression, your character gains nothing, then who cares if it dies? You're still going to be on the same guild, talking to the same friends, hanging out with the same people, guarding the same base of supplies that you got to run back to and gear up again and go back out and do stuff. So character death is absolutely meaningless in something like that. So with Nether, yeah, you're building your character up, your character dies, you lose all that progression, it sucks, and you start over. See, there at least permadeath really sucks, because you lose your character advancement, for better aiming, shooting, and stuff like that. But in this game, where they've already said there's no experience point system, no level, see, that's the kind of thing where permadeath sucks, is if you actually lose something. Who cares if you lose 2 cans of beans, some bandages, and a rifle? Yeah, it might have taken you a long time to find that rifle, but as the world respawns things into it, you're going to find 2 cans of beans again. And we've already seen that scraps of cloth and things like that are plenty plentiful in H1Z1. Replacing those basic supplies won't be too bad. And if every survivor starts with a hatchet that you can use to chop down trees and stuff like that, you've got some basic survival stuff with you from the start. So permadeath now is just an overused gimmick that has no meaning. Like, who cares? But give your character something then that carries through, so you actually can have some attachment to your character. So in an MMO, massively multiplayer, well, they haven't called this an RPG. Alright, and so in my mind, if it was an RPG, give us some elements that carry through from person to person, but I'm ready for a game where I can feel some attachment to my characters. I want to feel the anguish of, like, oh my gosh, he did just die, because that would help cut down on griefing. I think it would quite a bit, because even if you had a high level bandit and you start to get attached to your bandit because he's really tricked out, and then bang, he gets killed, then you're going to feel that sting, and you got to start over building your bandit all the way back up. Now, that's not going to prevent some people from playing bandits, and that's how they develop themselves, and they'll probably be the strongest players in the game, because while everybody else is trying to be friendly and make deals, and you've got these backstabbing bandits, they probably won't care. Griefers will be griefers, but I'm definitely, I definitely kind of in that boat where permadeath is an overused, non-important game mechanic anymore. There's nothing that keeps me attached to these characters, and nothing that really makes me care if they survive or not, because if I'm part of a group and we have a base, or like a guild, might as well just keep dying, because that means I've got a world that has an unlimited amount of people in it. They might be saying it's a world where they want you to feel that loneliness and that sense of not being with other survivors, but the fact that I just pop back into the world with another character to keep playing, then there's really an unlimited amount of people in the world, because you just keep popping back into a body. I would like to feel some attachment to my character. Now, if you really want to feel the sting of permadeath, somebody in here said this: hey, let's feel the sting of permadeath. Where was it? Oh man, I forgot where I saw it. But basically it was a vote. It said, hey, vote if you die in the game, you die in real life. Okay, well that might go beyond the permadeath. Yeah, right here. If you die in the game, should you die in real life? That might go beyond what I'm expecting. But if you want permadeath to mean something, how about when you die, your game account deletes itself, then you have to buy the game over again. Then you're talking about, oh man, that sucks. But as a free-to-play game, you just make new accounts. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about permadeath anymore for a game like this. Well, but leave me your thoughts. Permadeath has its place. It's just I would like to see some mechanics that make me feel attached to the character, so that I care if there's a permadeath system. Currently, as it stands for me, it does not matter. That's not even a cool gimmick, because you just start over, make a new person, and run back into the world. Alright, now this was interesting here. Infantry Upcraft, where it was just talking about ways in the game that you could potentially modify equipment. Talking about, like, duct taping things together, the paracord, and I remember doing this back in the Army too. We didn't necessarily modify personal equipment because, well, that would be a no-no, because everything had to look uniform. And if one guy 550 cord an extra magazine pouch to his vest, then everybody would have to do it. So when I was in the Army, we really didn't upcraft anything. And even when I did my deployments, you still didn't upcraft everything. Everything had to be issued. I remember when I got a 9mm pistol, and I was issued this old leather holster that was for a kind of an older 45 pistol, and so the 9mm didn't fit in it very well, and it was just a terrible holster. And I remember before we went on one of my deployments, I went to a US cab store, and I bought like this really cool high speed, it like went under your like my left arm, and I could wear it over my vest, or I could easily take it off and then wear it on my shirt. I mean, it was just a very cool holster, and I got in trouble for it because it wasn't the one that I was issued, even though it better fit all of my equipment. It was just, maybe it was just the unit I was in. They didn't care. I mean, I remember, we were in Somalia, and we had to pick up rocks. Like, they wanted us to rake the sand around the tent and pick up rocks so that everything looked uniform. Everybody had to rake it in a certain pattern. I mean, it was just ridiculous. But anyway, there was no upcrafting for us, and that's kind of the term he used. But I think that would be pretty cool, because not only should you have crafting of new things, but I think it would be cool if you had the correct materials that you could simply improve upon some of the things that you currently have. I think that'd be great. If you have, say, pants, well, pants might be a terrible example, but like if you found a vest, a load-bearing equipment vest, sure, with the appropriate amount of duct tape, and believe me, duct tape, phenomenal. Duct tape, paracord, yeah, make some additional pouches to carry stuff. I think that'd be great. I remember we made I just had memories back to when I was in the service, and yeah, we made all kinds of nettings and different things out of paracord. In fact, now if you go, it's actually a thing. I remember this was back in the early 90s when I was in service, and you made wristbands out of paracord, and you had to wrap them in an intricate pattern to get a certain amount of paracord length into like this bracelet. But now that's like a thing. You can actually buy these paracord wristbands like all over the place. Hit Amazon, you can look it up. You can even find things that tell you how to buy paracord yourself and then wrap your own bracelet of paracord. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, I like the idea of upcrafting. I like that. Let's see here. Oh shoot, 23 minutes of just chit-chatting on stuff. I'm going to cover this. This is one last thing. I know it's just rambling on quite a bit, but I really like this. An in-game stats. Why not keep a journal record of what you have done? So this kind of led me back to the why should I care about my character. I think this is kind of cool. This would be nice, even if you don't have a perk system or anything like that. It'd be cool if your characters came with a journal that automatically updated with things that you've done. Now, I've seen journals like this in a lot of games, and I think the best journal I ever saw for in-game was in Warhammer Online. It had a phenomenal journal that tracked lore, how many you killed of different creatures and stuff like that. Lord of the Rings Online has like a similar journal now, but at the time, Warhammer had the best journal. You would have to play it. Maybe you could find some YouTube videos that kind of explain how the journal works, but it was just a phenomenal thing that they had. And it dynamically updated as you played, encountered new creature types. And it would be kind of cool if you had a journal, something like that here in H1Z1. And I got a picture here of one that would be kind of cool to have. But either A, it allows you to put in information that you've done, and then dynamically track achievements that you've done as well. You know, keep track of how many zombies you kill. And even if this just spans the life of your game, and you at any point could reset the journal, then again, that's where it still does not take away the care of permadeath, because you die, you come back. but at least you could track over the account lifespan if you want, or until you hit the reset stat button. But this will track your in-game life. I think an in-game journal would be awesome. Now, I mean, you could do the same thing yourself, like I said with mapping. Just grab a piece of paper, put tick marks for every zombie you kill or everything you do. You're tracking achievements yourself. But I think it would be much more cooler to have that in-game, an ongoing journal of your life for your character as you progress from the day you create your first character to the point where you're currently playing, just to see how that guy progresses. Like right here, they've got a day survived. They put player kills, zombie kills. You know, it saddens me to see player kills in there because, again, that puts that mindset of PvP. This is a lobby-based shooter. Since permadeath has no effect on your character, who cares if you die, you just come back. So it saddens me to see that. But I mean, if you're playing a bandit, you play a bandit. You know, I want to see where your character has some meaning in the world, and you don't frivolously throw its life away just because you're going to come back 2 seconds later with a brand new person, you know. Anyway, but days survive, things like that would be very cool to track, so you could see how you progress in the game yourself and track it. In-game journal, I think, would be cool, and a dynamic one that's based on things that you do, I think would be great. Track your achievements, and if they did have perks and things like that, then you could see, you know, I think it would be cool in your journal. And this then becomes more of an RPG at that point, which I know is what they don't want. But I mean, if you unlock perks through your journal, you could swap out perks. You know, maybe you're allowed one perk. So you like to heal people, so you got your healer perk on. And that gives you a bonus because you've hit certain milestones in your journal on healing. You know, things like that would be kind of cool. But either way, I think an in-game journal, even if it's not one that dynamically updates, but just something for you to track things for yourself, I don't think that would hurt anybody. They might say, well, you have to craft the journal or find it. But you got to remember, your character in the game up to a certain point has already lived and may have already found certain things, and possibly a journal is a thing that they could have. And optional. You don't have to use it if you have it, but some people like to track stuff. Anyway, I thought that was cool, and I'll leave the broadcast here on that note. So, you know, H1Z1, great active community, shaping up with some great ideas, and all the things that we discuss are not in the game. You know, I have no idea what's going to be in the game. The early access should be coming soon. Got to convince the wife to let me get into the early access. I already spent some money this month on miniature gaming supplies, so I don't know if she'll let me get into the H1Z1 early access. So we'll see how that plays out when that comes. So anyway, if you have some thoughts and ideas on maps and journals and stuff like that, let me know what you're thinking, and we will talk to you later. All right, bye.